Welcome everybody. Come on in, get comfy. There remains plenty to talk about here. So I hope you came with your questions, thoughts, etc., etc. Um, yeah, I'm hoping that, especially with all these changes that are happening or maybe happening or not happening. Again, I do want to see what we can do to make this more of a think tank of sorts and just kind of share what we're hearing, what we're seeing. Who do you all know that's being impacted that we should know about, right? And hopefully have a kind of a collective megaphone for things that we don't like, or maybe the opposite, right? For things we do like. Same deal, right? Make sure that we're applauding the wins when we see them. But welcome if this is your first time. My name is Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders at College Aid Pro, and we say, I know this is a broken record for a lot of you that follow along each week, but we really consider school counselors to be along with ourselves, the tip of the spear in helping families, parents and students navigate really the financial piece of trying to make college happen, right? That is our sweet spot. I've been doing this personally for class 2025 is the 20th class that I'll have shepherded um, through this process. So I've seen an awful lot. I've worked with every college you've heard of. I have a feeling, and I've seen kind of every dynamic you can imagine in terms of students, parents, however, this I have not seen it all, right? I have not seen it all, and obviously this year, this new administration in particular is keeping us entertained, if that's the appropriate word. I'm seeing some stuff that I like. I'm seeing some stuff that I don't like. But again, I want these kind of counselor coffee talks that we do. I think they're always best when it's it's a conversation, right? So again, any thoughts, comments, questions, etc., please put them in the Q&A. We'll do our best to address them. There's no right or wrong here, and it doesn't have to be concerned with the subject matter that we're talking about, right? Like a lot of times for the class 2025 for seniors right now, you guys might be getting offers and you want to just talk about, hey, I just got this offer from, Kenyon College. How do I go back and do better? Does this sound right? So please continually use us as a backstop. I'm gonna go grab a couple of links for you here. If you are not already a partner of ours, right? If we don't already work directly with you and your high school, please talk to us. I'm popping this link in the chat right now so you can find some time with our high school partnership coordinator, Anne Marie. Now, Anne Marie, usually this is the time of the presentation where you inadvertently turn your camera on and you're using my Zoom account. So it looks like we got two Matt Carpenters. Um, I guess Anne Marie, we are avoiding that today, at least so far, but I see you there. And then here's another. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you guys just a Cliff Notes version. We still have some kinks to kind of finalize before tomorrow night, but I'm gonna this what I am putting in the link right now is a registration for this presentation we're doing tomorrow night. It's I think, a pretty comprehensive kind of state of the union on, okay, let's cut through the noise. What's going on in the Department of Education, specifically what has happened, what's being proposed, and then for the unknowns, right? In terms of, okay, we know some things have happened. Other things have been proposed. We know those two things. And then we're taking some best guesses here in terms of like, A, what we think may happen, and if certain things do happen or don't happen, what's the kind of fallout? What are the downstream impacts? Good, bad, ugly. And then really the takeaway is like, okay, all these external things are happening. What can we do as parents, as students, as school counselors, regardless of what happens or doesn't happen out there? Like that's always what we try to talk to. Like, there's a lot of this shit that's out of our control. What can we control? And, and again, given what's going on, where should our focus be? That's kind of the theme. So, you may either register for that presentation yourself. You'll get the recording. If you do not, if you're not able to make it live, feel free to share it with your families. Same deal. If they sign up, they'll get the recording. They will also get, and so will your school counselors. And again, this is not kind of the polished version, but I'll give you a little sneak peek, or a little sneak peek rather, and I will show you this again at the end. But we're putting together what we're calling like our Department of Education toolkit. And we have one for school counselors, we have one for underclassmen, we have one for the class 2025, we have one for in college students and parents, right? And so we're just trying to again arm them with things that they can do. So this is like an example of an underclassman one, right? How to know your SAI, scholarships, right? How to shop smart for colleges, how to figure out your budget here. So even if you don't again, all things that we know are really not going to change. The colleges aren't going to change a ton in terms of how they do business. So we just want to again continue to educate ourselves as consumers. I think some of the biggest changes, if not the biggest, in the higher education space that we're going to see right away in the next couple of months, as we get into borrowing season for the class 2025 and current college students. And again, some of these dominoes have already fallen. We're going to see meaningful changes in the loan space. Some good, some bad. Is kind of my prediction here. I'm not too optimistic about these changes as a whole, but and again, I'll spend some time kind of walking through the X's and O's in a minute here. But what can you do about that now, right? Not a lot of people know that even if you're a parent signing on a student loan, oftentimes the student's credit, these 18-year-olds, is can impact what type of rate you get. They need to start thinking about that, or knowing even, do they have a credit score, a negative credit score? Certainly parents, right? Thinking about the credit score, right? We have our monthly curriculum that we offer every Tuesday. If you're a high school partner, sorry, every the second Tuesday of every month, we have our kind of core presentation for that month, and then office hours every other Monday, where you can, families, students can talk live to our experts, and then we're just building what we're calling our vault around all things that are going on out there, and we're trying to keep this up to speed in real time because already stuff is outdated, right? So we're trying to recycle this and just kind of have it uh, live in here. So, skews our self promotion, but our you guys get it. Use your college sense, kind of the play on words here. Common sense, college sense. I think it's kind of witty. And then again, everybody will get the recording. So I think this will be a nice piece of I don't know, education collateral, whatever you want to call it, for families that are able to register for the webinar. And again, parents will have one, or our school counselors will have their own toolkit that'll speak specifically to you all. So please register and share that with anybody in your community that you think might benefit. And I think it's with everyone. And again, keep in mind, it's even in college folks too. So if you keep in touch, or still are, I'm sure most of those guys are kind of gone, but if you have whatever, if you still have any ability to get that out there, we're going to talk to what they should be thinking about as well. Okay, let's kind of get into the presentation itself. And again, I'm going to kind of do a super speed version for you all, or a slower version. It'll be, or a faster version, maybe not super speed. This will be a little bit more methodical when we do this tomorrow night, 7 Eastern time. And we'll also have a bunch of us on there answering questions. So, Peg and I talking, but we're going to have a couple experts that are going to be in the Q&A, answering all questions. And again, we always say, obviously, we're talking about kind of the task at hand here, but we'll encourage parents to ask any and all questions. And again, students, you counselors, whoever, any of our stakeholders here. Okay. So here's just kind of the punch list of what has actually happened to date, right? We have already seen some layoffs. So we have, uh, if you have tried to call the Department of Education FAFSA hotline before, that depending on when, and specifically, what months and time of year, that can be a big challenge. And then who you actually get live in terms of their level of expertise can also be a complete spectrum. We're already noticing an impact there. And as a matter of fact, we got a student that we worked with who's graduating from, I think just graduated from the University of Vermont, going on to med school, and he's been literally trying for months to get a hold of. I don't think it was months, weeks to get a hold of since these layoffs started. Basically, we could draw a straight line. He shared the date with us. Um, cannot get anybody at his lender. So Mohella, which is one of those, manages the federal loan payments, and he kind of archived how hard he's tried to get somebody live and just simply cannot do it, and has just found out that his repayment plan that originally had him at 95 bucks is going up to closer to $300, and it just happened, and he can't get anybody live, and his first payment's due like this week. So that is just, again, a sample size of many, many, many frustrated people out there that are being impacted in a very meaningful way, right? Because these loans should be deferred since he's going into med school. All of a sudden, the amount is way higher, so he is understandably freaking out, and it's pretty feels very helpless. We feel very helpless on his behalf. A couple of hacks are just when you call the Department of Education fastest, you just continuously hit zero. That's worked historically. I don't know. I haven't actually tried that in a long time, so I don't know if that strategy is coming on, but again, we're doing everything we can for him. But he's one of, in some ways, more than 8 million borrowers are currently enrolled in the SAVE program, and that's basically been nixed. Now you can no longer enroll in it right now, but it's been paused. So this is something where, again, people are scrambling, like, okay, what's going to happen? How long is it being paused? Same deal with income-driven repayment plans. The long and the short, I won't go too far into the weeds with these repayment options for federal government borrowers, but these are really focused on managing monthly cash flow. So the income-driven repayment plan, you're not going to pay more, no, regardless of how much you borrow, you're not going to pay more than a percentage of how much money you take home. So even though a loan structured like this can be very costly over the long term, 25, 30-year repayment terms, it can help individuals manage their monthly cash flow in the short term. So yes, I borrowed $150,000, but I can still have some type of financial um, independence, because these monthly payments are not too significant. And obviously the hope is that as they grow in their career, they can get more aggressive with repayment terms. So this is going to negatively impact a lot of people in a relatively short term here. I'm still searching for my silver lining with some of this stuff, especially for individuals that had signed a contract between two parties that this was how they're going to repay their loan, and for that contract to be torn up because one side of the party wants to uh, call that contract null and void. It's hard for me to find a silver lining there. I'll find one, but it's not there at the moment. So look at the more borrowers are going to have higher payments in the short term. Okay, that's what's happening here. And so those are some of the again, those dominoes have already fallen. And these are just a couple more of the proposals that are coming, and I think might happen, or some version close to this might happen, right? Getting rid of the American Opportunity Tax Credit, Lifetime Learning Credit. These are two tax credits that parents get when sending, or guardians get when sending their kids to college if they're below a certain um, income threshold, right? As a household, meaningful tax credits, right? Or up to 2,500 bucks. And that's not a reduction on just your taxable income. That's an actual credit, actual hard dollars that you get back, or reduces your tax liability by up to 2,500 bucks. I mentioned the income driven repayment plans, right? Um, student uh, loan forgiveness programs, right? Public service loan forgiveness programs. Uh, if they're not going away, they're going to be constricted further. So that's something that we are looking at. Plus loans just in general. So the federal government, this is the federal government parent loan that are sending their kids to college. We almost are certain they're going to be harder to qualify for. We almost are certain um, the rate is not going to be an attractive one, and we are already seeing evidence. This is all, but this is I think I can use the word guarantee. The repayment terms are going to be less flexible. Okay, so this is going to become a less palpable option for many borrowers. There's some good news, bad news here. Let's start with the bad news. For a decent amount of families, and I'm sure you all have run into this every single year, this is their only option to borrow money for college because when they go to apply for a Sally Mae or maybe the state program that have harder qualifying hurdles that you have to jump through, they don't get approved. Okay, so this is their only option is to borrow through the plus loan. It's going to get harder. Um, so historically, and certainly there's some change from one year to the next, but usually if I'm recommending the plus loan for somebody, it's because it might be the only choice, or they really value the flexible repayment terms, which again the plus loans historically have, but these are going away. So I just think it's going to have a significantly lower market share amongst private or sorry amongst the total amount of loans that are out there. Okay. So and again, public student loan forgiveness program. This was a good option too if you had a parent that was somewhere in civil service, if they were a teacher, right? Like you all would qualify as it. Um, Again, that this may not necessarily be the case anymore, but as being part of an educator, right, you would have qualified for a plus loan forgiveness program, right? Same goes with firefighters, police officers, right, et cetera, nurses. So that's a freaking bummer, right? There's I don't have a way to sugarcoat that. What could happen here is that this could be one big domino in college prices going down because if you're a nerd like this stuff like I am and you kind of do a deep dive in terms of like if why the hell is college so expensive, right? The short answer is it's the shortest answer is it's very good for business for three huge entities in our country, in which by proxy means the world. It's good for colleges if college is expensive for obvious reasons. Uh, it's good for the federal government if college is expensive. Why? Because at the moment, this is on fast track to changing. At the moment, the biggest asset class that our federal government has is by a wide margin is parent and student loans. 35% of all US government assets are in parent and student loans. So um, the more people are borrowing, the higher interest rates they're paying. It is good for their business. Lastly, Wall Street, right? They're huge players in college and huge beneficiaries of college being expensive. No matter who you are, if you are a family that has the ability to save money, you open up a 529 through an institution on Wall Street. If you have to borrow, even better, you borrow from a private student lender, on Wall Street. So they're winning either way here. So as consumers, we're up against those three major entities. We don't do a great job. Now, granted, those are who we're up against, pretty sophisticated, well-oiled machines, right? So it makes sense that we don't make great decisions here. But outside of those, if we wanted to point to one variable of why college is so expensive, it would be the plus loan. And there's tons of data to support this. Books written on it, some great books where basically, regardless of whether or not a family should be able to borrow. Has the ability to pay the money back, they're going to get approved for a plus loan, and it doesn't matter if they're employed, basically doesn't matter what their credit score is. It doesn't matter how much they ask to borrow, whether it's $5,000 or $100,000, they're gonna get it. So it tells the colleges that look, even if these families can't afford our high prices, the federal government's gonna write a blank check to us. And it's none of our business once we get that check what happens with the student's outcome. or the parent. So I'm going off the rails a little bit here, but if this blank check goes away or is reduced significantly or is harder to qualify for, the colleges are less incentivized to go up in price every single year, knowing again that the federal government's going to be there to write a blank check. So that is where we could see some silver lining to things that happen with the plus loan. So obviously, I talked about this quite a bit. Loan forgiveness could be greatly altered, if not go away altogether. Loan amounts, the payments for these could go up instantaneously. What's really interesting here is this kind of third bucket here. If the plus loan either goes away, which it's not going to happen this year, but the writing's on the wall where that could happen in the not too distant future. But even if we keep trending towards that being a less and less attractive option, and if we're not there already, we will be by kind of this borrowing season in the coming weeks and months. That means that loans are going to be, they already had meaningful market share, the private sector, but they're going to own it now. Okay. What are they going to do? Because the optimistic viewpoint is that they are going to compete with one another. And guess who wins? The consumer. Compete with one another and let the best rate and the best repayment term win. And we as consumers borrow at a more competitive rate thanks to, our capitalistic, society driven by competition, right? That's option A. Again, I'm not terribly optimistic at that. Option B is there's some collusion, there's some wink wink among the old boys clubs on Wall Street, right? There's about a half dozen banks that are real players in the private student loan market. Do they decide to not compete with one another and just kind of look at each other and say, hey, there's no plus loan we have to anchor to anymore. Let's take a little bit more liberties with the lowest rates that we offer, and we all make a couple more bucks because parents are still going to borrow. They're still going to pay, especially this year. So that's a real concern of mine. Scoreboard's going to be out there pretty soon, but that's a concern of mine, which is to me one of these reasons why education is so important. Families have no idea if they don't live in one of these three states that they can borrow through Iowa, Rhode Island, or Massachusetts. They can be a Hawaii resident and go to school in Texas, and they can borrow through Iowa, who, oh, by the way, has way more competitive, a nonprofit institution that has way more competitive rates typically than Sally Mae and the plus loan and things like this. But nobody would know that. So that's why we're so big on the education where you have to do your homework. Nobody would know that they're the only lender that tells you we take the best of the FICO score, on your application, right? Regardless of who is a cosigner, if you want to have multiple cosigners, right? They're not like a Sally Mae that is a black box in terms of how they package, families to get their rates, right? Parents are not going to know that outside of the federal government, probably the most competitive fixed interest rate again is going to be Rhode Island, and I can use them even if I'm a Florida resident and I go to school at Georgia Tech, right? So there's some other states that have state borrowing programs too, Vermont and Pennsylvania, to Minnesota. Um, Illinois uses Iowa, but there's about 15 states that have a lending program. We got to raise the awareness around these being options because they don't have the marketing dollars that again the Sally Mae does. The federal direct student loan program generally where we always recommend families start when it comes to borrowing. Subsidized version of this loan is very much in danger, and I think this loan program overall is in danger. There's just kind of a general theme where and Linda McMahon has been kind of the loudest voice in the room here, championing the administration's talk track around this, which is this overall pulling the federal government back from education, K through 12 and higher education. I don't hate that, right? I think there's some real advantages to that. Again, let's be clear, guys. This is not if it ain't broke, don't fix it situation, right? We got a broken higher education system. Um, so I welcome some change. Again, some of these I'm looking at going, oh boy, I don't see how that makes us better. Um, but some of it, hopefully, at least in theory, does. And I don't mind some kind of privatization of this um, space. I really don't. But just quickly on Linda McMahon, I don't know if you guys, it almost makes me wonder if the simulation thing is a real thing. People talk about, are we living in the simulation? I used to love wrestling when I was little, and then I still even paid attention a little bit like through college. And I remember back probably around then when Trump was on WWE, the World Wrestling Federation, might have been WWF back then, body slamming Vince McMahon, and then there was one like thing where he was making out with his wife, Linda McMahon, and and now she's the Secretary of Education of the United States of America, and I don't know, it just makes me laugh sometimes. What the hell's going on? Sorry for the again going off the rails there, but it's surreal to me sometimes of where we're at. So again, I welcome change. I'm a little nervous about some of them, as I said. Now, this one is probably the one I'm most concerned with, and that's Pell Grants. Again, the writing on the wall is that they could decrease. Right now, the funding for those programs is just not there. It's just not there. So they have a few months to come up with it before next year, but there's a very big shortfall, so they have to do something to make sure that this is at least, if it's not funded all the way, a percentage of it is funded all the way. So I do not anticipate a increase in Pell Grants this year. I think the realistic hope is that they stay where they are, and we just got to cross our fingers that they don't go down, right? And I'm sure you guys are doing the same math that I am, and that's that, just this concern that the students and families that need the most help are the ones that are going to be um, suffer the biggest negative consequences with some of this stuff, right? So again, it just makes our job more important, more mission critical here. But look at here, that's enough of the doom and gloom. Colleges are not, there's not going to be these massive changes in how colleges operate their businesses. Remember, at the end of the day, we're applying to 10 different private businesses, or how many schools we apply to. They each run their business differently. And we got to figure out how business is done at these colleges. And we got to go figure out which colleges are going to be most affordable for our family, that are still within our budget. And as you all know, but parents don't know, that doesn't mean that we have to only go to state schools in state, right? For a lot of families, it's going to be more affordable to go to the $100,000 school at Columbia than it will be to go to their in-state state college, right? Obviously, Columbia's an extreme example from an admissions standpoint, but this is what we're trying to empower families with. Is like, who cares what they do out there? These colleges are basically still going to run their shops, to varying degrees on a similar plane that they have been historically, right? And this is just an example, right? Again, you guys know the deal here, but this is, a Washington resident, UW versus Gonzaga. Gonzaga's double the price, more than double the price, but it's going to end up being the same cost, right? So we're just trying to show them, that this is a thing. And then, what do you still have control over? Okay. Obviously, hey, go make some noise. If some things that are impacting you or that you're really passionate about, um that are happening, talk to us about it. We're trying to give people a megaphone. We're trying to put this in front of decision makers, and we're having those conversations consistently. Talk to your local representatives, right? Don't just yell at the clouds, right? Take some action. That's what this is all about. Have accountability, have agency, because we still do, right? As counselors, as parents, as students, we still have agency. I mean, too many people say, "Oh, college is expensive," right? Palms in the air. If you work at, Anne Marie will tell you, we don't allow palms in the air in our organization. Okay, you'll get fined for that. Okay, there's none of this, because college is so expensive. Oh, You know, what can we do about? No, you can do plenty about it, and I don't care who you are. Okay, I don't know, care if you have you know, resources, you got no resources. There's an affordable path to college for everybody. Now, is it 50 times more complex than it should be? Yes, but it's still there, right? So you got to know your student aid indexes. You can do that today. What's your federal student aid index? What's your institutional student aid index? Is there anything that you can make that more palpable, right? Given that, have it be a meaningful variable in how you put your list of colleges together. Know your budget, right? And maybe your budget is $0, but know your budget, right? Um, this year, again, more than ever, your loan strategy is going to be so important, but we have to know what we borrow before perfect world, before we even pour a campus. We got to know what we're going to end up borrowing there, right? If we end up being accepted and eventually decide to attend. I know that's not realistic, but that's our goal. Control the controllables. We can't dictate what happens out there externally. We can control, you know, making sure that we understand our SAIs, making sure that we are shopping for affordable colleges that fit within our budget, even if our budget's zero or close to it. Okay. And don't catastrophize, right? I forget. There's a good quote where the guy says something like, "Aren't you worried?" And the response is, "Would it help?" And the answer is no, it wouldn't help to worry. So, you know, we're not going to do that. So then we'll talk parents again. Let's have a reminder. What is financial aid? If you don't know, here's what it is, right? Cost of attendance minus CFC equals need, right? Understand where you are in the spectrum. Understand that in addition to colleges discounting via grants, merit scholarships, etc., you can appeal. Guess what? The last 5 years, more colleges have given more appeal dollars than ever. We've got over $1 million so far this year from colleges. Here's just a few, just to show the spectrum. 50K more at Tufts. This is per year. 46K more at BU, right? Syracuse. Okay, we don't have a strong case, but they're still giving us 5K times 4 years, right? I mean, that's meaningful. And this is everybody, right? Everybody is doing this. So we got to help parents understand not to take, you know, that first offer. And then what we do is we'll say, look, here's where you can have access to this. And I get a question: does College Aid Pro, you know, do we cost money to work with? The answer is no. If parents want more comprehensive handholding, they can always book an hour to talk with one of our experts. If they do that, it costs money. Or if they want to be on the premium version of our software, it costs money, but it costs $20 to get on for the premium version, and then it's $9.99 a month, cancel anytime. Unless you're free and reduced lunch, right? And then you get everything for free. Okay, so free and reduced lunch, you get everything for free. But most of our users, they're totally fine with just our free resources, right? So, you know, they're finding out, here's their SAIs. Here's exactly what colleges are going to cost them, not the sticker price, the actual cost. Okay. You guys know this. Most of you, you've seen all our studies on this. You know, arguably the most dangerous place to send parents when trying to give them an idea of what a college is going to cost them is to a college's net price calculator, right? And, you know, colleges, when we've had the colleges on here, we'll say the same, right? Do not trust our net price calculator. We have to have it up there. It's a federal mandate. We haven't updated it since 2008, right? And there's no oversight there, okay? We have much higher standards. Ours has to be accurate, okay, or else we don't get to keep the lights on. So, but beyond just the net cost here, we want parents thinking about, and again, this year more important than ever, I cannot emphasize enough. What's it going to cost over 4 years minus my budget? So how much am I going to have to borrow? And is it okay to borrow this amount? How is this outcome, right? Specifically, what's my first monthly loan payment going to be? What's the total amount that I pay back have to be? And again, this is probably generous in terms of the loan rates this year. Obviously, we don't know next year's rates. We will in the coming weeks, but we are holding our breath a little bit. And then once families get accepted, right? Once families get accepted, they upload their financial aid awards. We translate them into one award, right? So if I say, "Hey, I just got accepted into Temple," okay, I'm going to upload my offer. Maybe I'm not because I got kicked out. Sorry about that. So in theory, I am going to upload my offer. Okay, translate and compare awards. I've uploaded an awful lot of awards in here. it's going to do two very nice things for me or you as school counselors. Okay. I'm going to upload the award. We're going to instantly translate it. Okay. What does that mean? Well, you guys know these award letters can get complicated. There's 914 different ways that the top 4,000 colleges presented financial aid awards last year. Our technology has taken all of them and put them into one apples to apples, side by side comparison, one award letter to rule them all. We back out things like plus loan. We back out things like work study because that doesn't tell us what our bottom line out of pocket is going to be. Those are misleading. That's noise. That's distracting. We'll talk about that at the end when we're actually going to pay the bill. What's need versus what's merit, what's subsidized versus unsubsidized. That's step one. Step two, did you get a fair award? Are you like a Boston college that should have given you 10,000 more dollars, right? We will tell you that, right? The technology will tell you that. It's pretty stinking amazing. Um, so use the tools that you have. There's no when we talk about agency and hey, control the controllables. This is what we're talking about. This is all right here, right? We don't have an excuse of, oh, we didn't know our SAIs. Oh, we didn't know what the school was going to cost us. Oh, we didn't know we could have got a better deal to go here. Oh, we didn't know that we could have borrowed at a lower rate. No, no, no. It's all here, right? It's our job. It's our job to let parents, families, school counselors know that it exists, and there is, a source of truth here. Um, we can only bring the horse to the water, right? And we know, but that's what we got to do. We got to bring the horses to the water, and then we got to get educated on all types of loans, pros and cons of each. Why do we start at the federal direct student loan, right? And then we're prettying this up for tomorrow night, but this is a real example. This is a family that borrowed $25,000 a year over the course of 4 years of college, 100 grand total. That's not a monumental amount. I live in Massachusetts, right? If you're not getting financial aid, it costs 40 grand to go to UMass Amherst as an in-state state resident. Okay. So this is, not a huge amount, but if a 2% difference in a loan rate, a 2% difference in a loan rate over 100K means that we are paying $40,000 more in the loan. So families don't think about that as much, and I don't blame them because that's just like, hey, we're trying to get our kids to apply to school, get accepted into school, get the best deal we can, and then we know the mentality is we'll figure it out. Famous last words, right? Well, for the 26s and 27s, they're not going to say that because we're going to have them completely prepared. But for the 25s, where it is, we got to make sure that we're appealing, we're negotiating to get our best deal, and then we have to borrow the right way again this year. More important than anywhere else here. And as you can see, not a polished deck here. Some summary slide placeholder. So, but that's kind of the long and the short. Yeah, we do have. I will put in. Let me share what I think is a pretty helpful uh, slide here. Give me one second. Okay, I think this is a helpful piece of collateral if you want to share this. So this is kind of a tutorial on all things appeals. Okay. What should our expectations be? What about timing? Who should do the appeal? How should we do it? I have a little video if you're kind of a visual learner getting the whiteboard for these guys. And then at the bottom here, there's a bunch of different templates, right? So which of the tone, structure, etc. of a putting this in the chat right now of the a parent appeal be versus a student appeal. If we have an extreme hardship, if we had a job loss, we had a non-recurring income increase, or maybe a 1-year distribution, or maybe I don't have anything that's this really meaningful um, ammunition, right? We didn't have a job loss. We don't have hopefully a God forbid situation. What's a generic appeal, effective generic appeal uh, look and feel like? So I just put that in the chat here, and then again, I think we have some work to do here, but I'm pretty proud of my team who's been working their asses off for over a week to try to put together these toolkits that we can give to all parents, all students, and all school counselors, you know, that register for our kind of State of the Union presentation tomorrow night. Again, of which I just gave you a sneak preview of. I think somebody just. Yep, and good point, right? So this goes back to my every college runs their business differently, and the comment from Karen was most colleges have a document to be filled out if you're filing an appeal. Some do, right? Some do. You have the UPenns, the U Chicagos of the world, that their strategy, this is mandated. Obviously, we get access to these conversations based on our connections here, but part of their strategy is to make appealing. The goal is they want to make the appeal harder than actually applying for financial aid, because their data shows that they get like almost 50% of those that start appeals will not complete the appeals because it's such a pain in the ass, right? That's one of their business tactics. So you have colleges on that end of the spectrum that just make it incredibly hard to appeal, make you jump through all these hoops. Northeastern, you can only do an appeal through the students portal, which again is just annoying. You have to have them to, it again makes it creates more friction there. Then you have other colleges that are like, do you want to appeal? It's very blasé. Okay, send us a letter, put something in writing, we'll meet as a committee, we'll get back to you. Right. And of course, you got everywhere in between. Those are kind of the two extremes. But the takeaway, the point is for me and how we coach the parents is you got to do business as business is done. If you want to go appeal at, Loyola, Chicago and Rice, you got to go see how appeals are done at each of those institutions. Also, don't you can ignore it when it says on their website that they don't entertain appeals. Okay, and again, you also see some variation. Some schools are very explicit in their language on websites. We do not match other offers. We don't compete with other offers. Other colleges say, hey, if you got another better offer, show it to us, upload it here, whatever. We want to see it, and we are very much up for entertaining that. And then, yeah, guys, I'll just let me share this again. But in terms of time, place, etc., tomorrow night is the 3/6 at 7 Eastern time is when we are doing our State of the Union presentation. Come yourself, share it with your community. The more the merrier. Like I said, we're going to have a bunch of people on there answering questions because we have thankfully a great attendance. Okay, yeah, and there it is again if you want to like or share. And again, if you don't already, guys, make sure that you talk to. I'm going to grab another link here, but for those of you that have not had the pleasure of meeting Anne Marie, she's a freaking doll. Okay, so if nothing else, just have the do yourself a favor and spend a couple minutes with Anne Marie. Here's our gal. She's our high school partnership coordinator. Learn about us. Do your research. Right. Trust your instincts. We have a hard time in some states that say, "Hey, we can only use because this." Yeah, State of the Union presentation will be recorded. Everybody that registers will get both the recording, and they will also get the membership toolkit, and they will get the appropriate membership toolkit. We have one for school counselors, one for class 2025 families, one for underclassmen families, one for in-college families. Obviously, there's some overlap there, but our coaching points are a little bit different based on who we are. So I just put this link in here. Learn more about us. Do your homework. Do your research. We'll put you in touch with other schools that have partnered with us for years or newer to us. We have our financial aid curriculum where our experts can coach up your families. It's free. They can have access to our software. We do these every other Wednesday. We have our College Sense podcast. I got to get the name right. So let us help you. Let us make you look good. Let us be just a great resource for your community. And I'll challenge some of you, right? That there's a level of discomfort or there's a natural barrier because we are technically a for-profit company, and maybe there's a policy against that in your district, state, whatever. Even though we are just yes, we have colleges that pay for, or colleges, we have high schools that pay for the premium software for just their communities. That's a very small percentage of the 5,000 plus. I think we're approaching 6,000 high schools that we partner with. But you know, do your homework on that. If you're one of those state institutions too, do your homework there, right? Like my home state. Okay, I like to pick on them a little bit because I think they've earned it. Because MIFA is our not for profit partner, um, but they're an incredibly uh, profitable arm of Fidelity, right? If you go down MIFA's rabbit hole, it's they sell loans and sell 529s for Fidelity, right? Under I'm not saying they don't provide value, they do. So I got to be careful not to be too disparaging there, but don't kind of kid yourselves, right? Pennsylvania has an organization. Their organization did $100 million in profit last year in loans that they sold to Pennsylvania residents and those that went to school, in Pennsylvania, right? It's incredibly cheap marketing for them to be in with all these high schools and providing direct marketing for free to their, um, to their uh, customers, right? Their borrowers, right? And again, and they're not gonna say that there's other options out there, and maybe Iowa is, a little bit better than them, or maybe Rhode Island is a better fit, etc. So I'm just challenging you to say, make sure that your families, and again, I'm biased here. I'm biased, but I've had so many school counselors say, "Look, we can't have you in our school, but I'm sending my kids to college. Can you help me?" Right? Like offer this to, your families, or let them know it's an option, right, guys? Because for me, and one thing that I don't hate around some of the rhetoric and this the federal government, pulling back a little bit from the Department of Education, of this attitude of, you know, families should have the ability to choose who they think is the best resources, right, that they want to engage with and have options, right? And that's where I would kind of challenge you that if you're in one of those schools, talk to the powers that be and say, hey, these guys seem to know what they're talking about. Um, Feel them out, right? Go do the homework on us, right? Do your due diligence. Ask the hard questions to Anne Marie, because again, I think this has been a challenge. When I say this, I mean sending, you know families off to college, specifically the affordability piece of the puzzle. For as long as I've been doing this, i.e., 20 years, I think it's going to get harder before it gets easier. And with all this noise out there, I think it's just important to have a source of truth, and we hold ourselves up to that standard. So again, I know I'm being self-serving there, but you can, let your instincts, trust your instincts. Am I full of shit or not? I guess. Um, okay. Yep. State of the Union will be recorded. Everybody will get the recording that registers, as well as the appropriate toolkit, right? And when they sign up for the recording, we're going to ask who you are, your school counselor, if you're a parent or a student, what's your graduating class. So that allows us to make sure they are getting kind of the right collateral with that. But went longer than I expected to. But I care about this stuff, so sometimes I can't shut up. Any questions, guys, before we cut out a little early? And again, it can be related to this stuff or not. Um, and again, as specific as you want it to be. Again, use us as your backstop. We got this award. It doesn't seem right. We got this undocumented student. What should we be thinking about? Good call. When is lunch delivered? Yeah, that's, you know what? Um, that's a fair point. And Anne Marie, I kind of like the idea. We'll have to maybe once a week, once every other week or something like that. No, I know you're busting my bananas, but I kind of like the idea of like, do we buy different schools lunches based on their participation, their engagement? Are they asking questions? Do they show up a lot? I think there's something there. Can we buy Chipotle or whatever? I always is it Chipotle? Chipotle? Whatever it is, wherever you guys like to have lunch in your community, that would be interesting. Um, and then maybe maybe in Marie, occasionally we can go on the tour. You know, we go to a ton of these conferences, guys. We're always at NACAC and ASCA, a lot of these state conferences. As a matter of fact, Amory, where's the next? When are we in? I know we're in Massachusetts the first week of April. We're the New England NEACAC, my home city. If you guys could be, if any of you are for okay, we're at SACAC at the end of March in Atlanta. Come say hi to us, please. Come say hi to us. I think Peggy and Anne Marie and Kathy. I think the three our three gals will be at SACAC. NEACAC is at the it's either end of May or early June. I think it's early June. Um, it's in my home city, and we're going to do. I have a local establishment, usually every Friday. We call it going to church. It's the local watering hole, right? Where I go with my family every Friday, 5 p.m. if you're looking for me. I'll be at the Anchor Pub and Grill. We're gonna do a great party, a cappy hour. That's right. Thank you for the reminder. I mean, we're gonna do a cappy hour. We did one at NACAC. It was a ton of fun where we rented out, a section of a bar for several hours. We got carried away. It was a ball. I plan to get carried away again. Meet some people in the flesh, talk some turkey, but most of all, have some fun. You guys work your asses off. You're underappreciated, underpaid, all that stuff, and we see you. So we like to reward you anytime we can. And so please come see us, SACAC, Masca, Neacac, and then over the summer, Asca and Long Beach, and obviously NACAC out in Columbus in September. But we'll be on the road show many times before then. All that is to say, happy to buy you guys a lunch when we can. So. Okay, everybody, thank you as always. Number one for showing up, number two for the participation, and just kind of the overall buy-in and care. You guys are again going above and beyond, just paying attention to this stuff. But let's do our some of this stuff for you to the extent that we can. So grateful for you. See you in 2 weeks. Hope to see a bunch of you tomorrow night. And your parents blasted out there. It's going to be a phenomenal presentation. We've been working really, really hard on this one, and I think we'll do a good job. Thanks, guys.